Hello and welcome to my tutorial for the Symbolic Hieronymus Machine Attracting a Mate Edition. Let me lead off with, you do not need this radionic device or any other to manifest the ideal mate for yourself. All the things I will cover in this tutorial, you can very well apply without this device. However, the Symbolic Hieronymus Machine has a proven, documented track record of affecting manifestations of healing and prosperity. The only way you're going to know is if you experiment yourself. So the devices that I assemble, make, and create tutorials for are devices that are priced affordably so that you can very well do the experiments to see if there is any measurable difference in using a radionic device that I offer, or anyone else for that matter, compared to if you did not use one at all. And if you just can't afford one, then of course just follow the instructions in the tutorial without the device, and I'm certain you'll notice a measurable difference than not having the information. All right, having said that, this Attracting a Mate edition, I was inspired to create by a friend of my wife's. My wife, while very supportive of all the things I do in this metaphysical space, we have an agreement, though, that I do not speak of it unless I'm directly asked by her friends and family, because for some reason people are embarrassed about talking about things that are metaphysical in nature. So this particular friend of my wife's has had some exposure to that side of my life, the metaphysical side, and on one of our visits I think we may have done some telekinesis experiments with bending spoons or something. I can't remember exactly, but her friend was aware of the things that I experiment with. And in a recent conversation, she asked my wife to ask me to do something to help her, attract the right man in her life, or a mate or something. Well, the right man, I think is what she said. So I thought about it, and since I was asked, and that's the deal with my wife, if I'm asked, then I can respond. I was inspired to create a edition of the Symbolic Hieronymus Machine that was energetically charged with the intent of manifesting a mate for the end user. Now, the device will come with instructions on how to use it, so I'm just going to cover an overview of how one would use it, because it's not just the device in itself. You still have to make some changes, or you may have to make some changes within yourself. For example, if you are looking for the ideal mate, then you have to be specific. Part of using the devices, you have to write down a specific intent, something short and specific that you can start to broadcast the desire, or broadcast the intent to desire once you write that down. So to get to the point, you have to know exactly what you want. So if you start out with the personality characteristics, for example, the things that you want in your mate, you want to be able to radiate that yourself as well. You want someone that's honest, you need to be honest. You want someone that's generous, you need to be generous. You want someone that's affectionate, you need to be affectionate. You get the picture. So whatever it is that you want in your mate, you have to be sure to exude that in yourself to be able to attract it. The device that I created, or the addition that I created for attracting a mate, will do nothing more than amplify the energy that you're already creating. And I can do all I can to help attract the ideal mate, because that's the intent that I put into the assembly of it. But you are the creator of your world, so you have to be mindful of the energy and attention you give to the mate that you want to attract. You don't want to attract the wrong mate. So again, whatever it is that you want in your mate, you want to exude, radiate, and exemplify that attribute. When it comes to the physical attributes of your mate, hey, be specific. Write it down what you want. But again, be mindful of it. If you're looking for someone who is a physical Adonis, or model-esque figure, or what have you, and you're not physically in shape yourself, it's not impossible to attract a mate that can do that, but give yourself a fighting chance. With you want to be physically fit if you want to attract someone physically fit, is what I want to get to. All right, so having that in mind, if you don't have those qualities that you want in your mate, you can start being that now, imagining yourself that now. So if you're not physically fit now, but that's what you want in your mate, and you're working on that yourself, start visualizing yourself as your ideal weight or physique. In terms of the personality characteristics, those are things you can, again, change immediately. Being friendly, loving, kind, whatever it is you want in your mate, be that now with everyone and without exception, and radiate that energy. And the device, if you so choose to use, will necessarily amplify that intention. So how do you use it? Well, you use it just like you use the symbolic device if you watched any of my tutorials. But what you do is you will take a representation of yourself. It could be a photograph, fingernail, piece of strand of hair, drop of blood, saliva on a napkin or something, anything that has your DNA in it, that will represent you, and you would place that on the left side of the Symbolic Hieronymus Machine under this small spiral. And as you can see, I have a radionic image in the center there to, again, amplify that intention of attracting the harmonious counterpart for yourself, the ideal mate. So you put that representation of yourself, photograph, fingernail, hair, picture, what have you, on the left side on the spiral. And then you will place the image. Actually, let me stop right here for a moment. Please do not use this device, or attempt to use this device, to make someone attracted to you that is not attracted to you already. In other words, if you know someone and maybe you try to get, to establish a relationship with that person, and for whatever reason, they were not interested. This is not the device to use to now make them interested. Please understand that. This is the device to amplify you looking for the ideal mate. So if this person, if, for example, is that I just spoke of in that example, if you want someone that is similar to that person or have the qualities of that person, then you can use that as part of your imagination and intention. You know, I would love to have a mate that exudes the qualities of, you know, fill in the blank of that person, but is ideal for you. And if it just so happens to be that person, then that will, you know, manifest that way. But you don't do that to you don't use this device to try to violate anyone's free will, is what I want to get to. And yeah, all right, so I spoke to that. So on the right side of the stick, where stick pad is, this is where you will place your desire. So before we set the frequency intention, you want to make sure you write out what that desire is, and you write it as if it has happened already, as opposed to sometime in the future. So you would write something to the effect of, I am in a harmonious, loving, and joyous relationship that brings out the best in myself and my partner, for example. Or you can write something else that is that resonates with you. So you now have this desire, this intent of this ideal relationship. You will list the attributes, the characteristics of your ideal mate. You would write that on your and then you have the list of the attributes and characteristics you want in your partner, and then you hold that card with that representation of yourself. I mean, you're already all around it, but for the sake of this experiment, you would place the representation that you're using for yourself, your photo, your hair, your fingernail, what have you, and you hold that together with the treatment card of your ideal mate in your dominant hand. And in my case, it would be my right hand. So as I'm saying it, I'm imagining it, and you're holding it in your right hand, and you're just imagining that this is real. This will happen if you can give all your faith and believe that you can generate the energy to manifest the ideal mate for yourself. And then you spend some time in prayer. Some time is relative, 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever resonates with yourself. So in prayer or in meditation, you will imagine yourself in the perfect setting with your ideal mate, doing something you really enjoy. You're having fun. You're feeling it now. And sit with that. 5, 10, 15 minutes. Sit with that. And then after you've sat with that feeling, you want to find the frequency for that feeling, for that intention. So then you take the dial with one hand, and this is designed really for someone with a right hand, I think, prominent right hand. So while you're turning the dial, starting from 0, and you're stroking the stick pad lightly. Make sure your hands are clean and dry. And as you're stroking the stick pad with your 2 or 3 fingers, however you're comfortable with, and you're waiting for it to stick, as you're turning the dial, you're keeping in mind this perfect mate, this perfect relationship. And as you're turning the dial, you're waiting for your fingers to stick. And when you feel that stickiness, you look down, you look at where the dial is, and that's the frequency you're going to leave the Symbolic Hieronymus Machine tuned to. Some people feel more comfortable using a pendulum to find the right frequency as opposed to the stick pad. And if you are one of those people, then use the frequency chart that comes with the kit and center your pendulum over the frequency chart. And while holding the image or even the photo or representation of yourself in the treatment card with the description of your mate in one hand, and as you're closing your eyes or just relaxing, and think to yourself, show me, well, you're going to have to open your eyes to see the frequency chart. But as you're thinking, you can close your eyes until it's time to look at the chart. Think, show me the correct frequency to broadcast, to amplify my intention of attracting the ideal mate, my ideal mate. Sit with it for a moment, and then look at the frequency chart and pay attention to what the frequency is. Now, when you get a reading and you got it narrowed down to 10 points, it's between 20 and 30, for example. Then you ask your pendulum, is it more than 21? Look for a yes or no answer. If it's more than 22, yes, no. Is it more than 23? Do that until you get a yes for the exact frequency, to fine tune it down using the pendulum. So that's basically how to set the frequency. So then once you set the frequency, you place your representation of yourself on the spiral on the left. You place the treatment card with your description of your mate or in relationship on the right. And then you ask your pendulum, or think to yourself with your pendulum, asking how long to broadcast that frequency. I would let it just run until you feel, until you meet your mate, to be honest with you. But if your frequency, your pendulum gives you something different, then, follow that. I ask, do I broadcast for more than a week? Yes, no. If it says no, less than a week, then, count down till you get down to the number of days. If it says more than a week, then count up by weeks until you get to the number of weeks that you should broadcast. But that's the tutorial. I wish you well. For those of you who take on this device and experiment, I would love to hear how you made out so that we can share the results with others. Full disclosure, I have not documented any successful experiments with this device, as I just created it within the last several days as an inspiration for someone else, and I don't have enough people to share this with to experiment to get results. So the best way to get results and get data is to offer it out to the public. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for visiting this tutorial, and stay tuned for for more to come. Live joyously.